Hello, AP Art History students. Today we are going to go to the artistic cultures of sub-Saharan Africa, and today we are going to be talking about magical spirits. A range of ritual objects from the Congo Basin, in particularly the Congo area, are commonly known as menkises. Let's just make sure that we're making that pronunciation correctly.
Minkasi. Minkasi.
Okay, good. So it's minkasi, or the singular is an inkasi. Historically have been labeled as fetishes. They may have consist of a collection of natural objects or may be sculpted from natural materials such as wood, shell, animal horn, and they're put into human or animal forms. Now, the one thing we need to understand about African sculpture is that basically it's portable. Large sculptures, the kind that we would see in ancient Egypt or Rome, were totally unknown. And again, as I said, wood is, the materials that we use here, wood is the most favorite material. Trees were honored. Trees are symbolically repaid for the branches taken from them. Ivory is used as another form of material, as a sign of rank and prestige. So if you see something made of ivory, it's probably going to be related to somebody of aristocracy, of higher social status. Metal, if you see metal in it, it shows strength and durability, and is restricted only to royalty. And if you see something made in stone in African sculpture, you're basically looking at the unicorn. It's very rare. Figures are basically frontal. They're drawn full-faced with attention paid to some side detailing. There is a sense of symmetry is occasionally used, but most artists vary their approach from each side to side. There are no preliminary sketches done. Work is directly on the wood, and there is a certain, as you look at the image here to the left, of stiffness, rigidity. Heads are always going to be disproportionate to the body, sometimes taking up a third of the whole figure. And if we look at sexual characteristics, they're going to be also enlarged. So harken back to the woman of Willendorf, some of the prehistoric fertility, if we want to kind of take it down that avenue, portable stones of that time. You're going to see use of multimedia. Most commonly, you're going to see wood sculptures adorned with either feathers or fabric or beads. African sculpture prefers sort of a geometrization of forms, in general avoiding physical reality, representing the spirit in a more timeless world. Proportions are therefore manipulated. So again, we're talking about the menkises. The quality, again, is determined by the type of material used. This merely is conducts the spirit forces, but by the magical substances that it contains. And the power of the object can be directed to a variety of purposes. Now, the power of the object can be directed to a variety of purposes, including curing diseases and ensuring success in hunting and in trading. So I want you to think about other works of art that are in the same idea. The idea of something curing diseases. So we would have seen that in reliquaries during the Pilgrimage Age, and even today. The making of an Nkisi is an operation shared by the sculptor and the Inganga. Let's make sure I'm saying that word right as well. Let's see.
Nganga. Nganga.
All right, good. Nganga, I guess, is how that's said. And initiated ritual expert who attach certain substances that help harness the power of the object and metaphorically define the use to which it can be put. The magic essence can be either be inserted into cavities in the object, generally in the abdomen or in the head, or attached to the outside in projecting containers that are glued on with resin or into clay. The particular piece we see right here, most likely the object was placed inside the object in its stomach. Now, the figure you see on the right side of this slide is a power figure, an Nkisi Nkondi. This was created right around the late 19th century. It is made of wood and metal. As you'll see, the metal nails on the outside. The spirits are embedded in the image. As you see here, the spirits can be called upon to bless or harm others. The spirits can be called upon to cause death. That's kind of scary. And the spirits can be called upon to give life, or that could be utilized as in a way to have a successful birth, if that was in order. In order to prod the image into action, nails or blades are often inserted into the work or simply removed from it. There are medical properties are inserted into the body cavity, thought to be the person's life or their soul. Nails are pounded into the figure. And what we also see here is we have a figure that's very alert in its pose, and that kind of makes me think about the votive figures from our Mesopotamian culture. Also think about, how does this image look a bit shocking? Does it look a little bit out of the ordinary? Well, you can harken back into the Röntgen Pieta. That was sort of a mystical thing. Also, these ideas also fit within the idea of transformation masks, how you're going from one thing to another thing as well. Traditionally, Minkisi figures can be subdivided into three main categories. The first type are reliquary objects. You should be familiar with what reliquary objects are, characterized by the presence of a mirror. Now, a mirror symbolizes light and the clear-sightedness of the Nganga, who is interpreting the event. Remember, the Nganga is the initiated ritual expert. The second kind are nail minkinzis or minkandis, and are embedded with nails and or sharp iron pieces. Now, these works often have a menacing expression. Sometimes they have an arm that's raised in a threatening gesture. Minkandi used for mystical attacks as well as mystical defenses, where they were activated by having nails driven into them, as I've mentioned before, to arouse their, quote, anger. The Nganga would then direct that anger against, for example, the author of his client's grievance by singing an invocation. The directed anger was engaged by the client's words and by his act of licking the magical charge of the Nkondi. The third and final of the Nkisis is the Mpemba. Let's make sure we're pronouncing that correctly.
Mpemba. Mpemba.
Mpemba. Which consists solely of carvings of mother and child figures. So we can go back to the Virgin and Child, the wood carving that we've seen in our earlier periods, and for the use of treatment for female ailments. The characteristic of identifying the different categories of Minkinsi are going to be the mirror, nails, raised or weapon brandishing arm, and may also be found in a single sculpture. So I want you to think about our magical sculptures here, and the question here is kind of a good question, as I teach world history as well, and we have to teach the idea of syncretism. And I want you to think about artworks that reflect syncretism of African art. And the best examples that we can go with are West African slavery. This is during the Atlantic system, and how West Africans brought their belief systems over into the New World and developed their own sort of style. And so we can see sculptures from the religious belief of voodoo. This is a Caribbean religious belief. due to West African slavery. We can also look at, in the bottom image here, the religious belief called Santeria, which again is another Caribbean belief system, and that is the combination of Catholic saints, Catholic beliefs, with African beliefs as well. And so kind of go through your AP Art history book, or do some research on African art that is syncretic. We can also do that with syncretism with art of Islam, with works of African art, and also Christianity coming into regions like Ethiopia and what it did to their art as well. Well, I hope this video helped you out.